So it's actually just listening to the signals and realizing that everything outside of me is actually within me. And then to follow that, and then you'll be brought to the space of enlightenment and true acceptance and love for yourself in a whole new way.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Universe the Game podcast. Guess who it is? It's your boy, Nick Sai, back for another episode. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking to Fergus. And I did talk to Fergus, and it was an incredible episode on changing your perception on healing. He is a healer. I've known him for years. He's a good friend of mine, a very close and personal episode. I felt like I had a therapy session literally just by listening to his wisdom. It was incredible. So I highly recommend that you watch the whole episode because we get started and it just goes very, very deep. All right. So secondly, before we start, I just wanted to mention to you that we are ad-free today. There is no ads throughout this entire podcast because we are sponsored by my own work, which is I have a 7-day awakening and empowerment challenge that starts. I'm just going to mention this once, the beginning, maybe at the end. So 7-day awakening challenge starts on the 29th of this month, and it's all about awakening and empowering you to a greater level of consciousness and to be able to create the reality that you prefer, which I am incredibly passionate about. And if those concepts interest you, I'm teaching about so many different things on the 7 live days in a row, and everything's recorded, so if you can't make it live, you can always watch it later. But if that's interesting to you, if you're ready to awaken and empower yourself using what I feel like is the most profound and practical knowledge that I've found, then check out the challenge. It's going to be in the description. And other than that, we are also brought to you ad-free by one other thing. You may have heard about this or may not. I haven't mentioned it on my podcast yet. This is the first time. I haven't mentioned either of these on the podcast yet. But we also have my #1 new release book. There, it's right set up now. 10 Secrets of Awakening. We are the #1 new release on Amazon. Thank you so much to everyone that has bought the book. These two directly support me to be able to get this Airbnb you're looking at with the cactus bed behind me. I am so grateful to every single one of you that has gotten these, and it means so much to me. Okay, so ad-free throughout. English, it's tough. Well, we talked a lot on the podcast, so it is what it is. But I did that, the podcast is just, I did that a little while ago, so I can't make that excuse because I didn't shoot a podcast today. But 10 Secrets of Awakening, check it out. Check the challenge out if you want. Otherwise, without further ado, let's get right into the podcast with Fergus. Fergus, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you on. I haven't had a direct healing focused guest yet, so I'm so excited to get into this episode with you. We've got a lot to talk about as usual on Universe the Game here, but I kind of want to start off with, let's just get right into healing and your kind of take on healing. What do you see healing as? I know that's a general question, but I think it's a good premise to start on,
For me, I see like healing as learning about yourself in a whole new way. And healing is kind of like revealing in a lot of ways for me. That's the way it's been on my path anyway, that it's shown me aspects of myself that I didn't even know were there. And I see like even on a lot of your content, Nick, as well, is that when you peel back the layers of what you think is real, then you see a whole new version of reality. So I think that healing is the uncovering and the unpeeling of the layers that you already are and letting go of the lies that you've been conditioned and the lies that you've been told. So for me, like I've gone through so many layers, and each year, each week, each day, I go on a deeper layer within myself. And I do that through all the different modalities and through like constant research, because healing myself has been my own research in a way. And that allows me to like see into the veil of other people, to see the lies that have been happening in their lives, or to see the struggles and the difficulties that are being shown to them, because I see that as the map. The way we always like split, and it's the old way of thinking in that there's like good and bad and positive and negative. I see it all as working for you. So I see all of it as another layer to reveal. And that's what I see healing as in its entirety, is the constant unlearning and learning of something new.
Nice. Okay, so let's just get deep right there. When you think about the layers, you say underneath all the layers of conditioning, and something I talk about too in a lot of the material I do. What do you think is there? Like, what's underneath everything?
Well, like when I look at I've got a newborn son right now, and he's 4 months old. and I see how pure he is, how divine he is in his essence, and just like so present. So I look at the conditioning and the layers of what we've been taught and the layers of pain and trauma as everything that's not that. So everything we've been conditioned with from our parents, from our ancestors, from our past lives, and even beyond, everything that we've been conditioned with, even by our society. And I see that everything that is not what he is a lie. Anything that is taking him out of presence, that is pulling him into pain, is just not true. So I see all those layers as kind of stacked on top of each other. And like, even when I started my own journey, I had to start with my inner child. You know, what was my inner child talking? What was the pain that he was taking on? What were the patterns that he was seeing? The patterns of behavior, the suppression of emotions, what was told that was wrong and right, and what society judged as right or wrong in that time. And after going deep into inner child, then you inevitably get deeper and you go, but where did the inner child learn that stuff? Okay, so it has to be parents. So I look into my parents' lives. That's why they taught me that. And I go, but why did my parents think that? And I go, sure, their parents taught that as well. But why did they think that? Oh, because they grew up in famine times, or women weren't allowed to vote at that time, or that's just the time that they grew up in, okay, society. And if we take that on inherently, like into our lives right now, like there's so many patterns within me, like especially around like scarcity and all these, which were actually from the famine times, which weren't even from my own life right now. So shortage of food can relate also to like shortage of money. And we think that that is rooted in our own lives. But when we look deeper, we can see how far this has gone back. And my whole thing is getting to the root of where the story was created. Like, where was the feeling created? Because within us, we're just feelings and stories. And we're just trying to come up with a story that attaches to the feeling that we think is correct. And the stories that we're told to describe the feelings that we have are not matching. That's why the feeling is staying on within us. It's just continuing. And I see that when you go back to the root of where the feeling generated, whether it's scarcity, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression or like suppressed anger, when you find the right story, the brain no longer has a reason to hold on to the feeling anymore. It goes, okay, I don't need to hold on to this anymore. I can just let go of it. Just in the same way that if you bang your knee off a table or you hurt yourself physically and you get to the root of the pain, like you put some ice on your knee or like all of these areas, the pain no longer needs to stay anymore because it's being addressed directly. And I think that a lot of the times we're addressing the pain indirectly, that we're thinking that we're working on it, on the actual source of the issue, but we're not. There's something much deeper that's telling the story, that's hidden behind all the different layers.
Yeah, so that's powerful. Now, let's go with your example then. Let's say that you had a shortage of money and you found that that was the root of a lot of the different things happening in your life, maybe, or the root of the feelings. So where would you go from there?
So if you have issues with money and you have struggles with money, okay, you go back to, but why do I have this? Okay, because we're inherently abundant beings, right? We have everything right here in this present moment. So what is telling you that's not that? You know, what is it that's telling you that conditioning? Maybe you heard as a child that money is the root of all evil, or you don't need money to be happy. So people go, okay, I don't need money to be happy, so it's just won't like have any. They unconsciously pattern this, and this is all unconscious that this is happening, because there's 5% of us that's conscious, but 95% of us that's unconscious. And that's why, like, when we're trying to do affirmations and we're trying to change our financial destiny and we're trying to change ourselves through consciousness alone, through like researching or reading books and all this, that's amazing. But it's using 5% to change the 95%. It's the 95% that needs to be changed. And when I work with people, I always say that I'm kind of like a big digger, that I go into their bodies and I shovel out all the gunk, like that's been told as lies, so that they're open to more consciousness and open to more true awareness that they can take in. And what I'm talking about money is that you take out all the famine scarcity mindset. You take out all the times that your father said that you don't need money to be happy, or money doesn't grow on trees, and money is the root of all evil, and you have to work hard for your money, and all of these stories. And you get to the feeling and root out the feeling of it and just allow yourself to feel it. If your deepest fear is to have no money, feel that. What does it feel like to have no money? Just like allow yourself to feel it, because anything that you're inherently scared of, the universe will reveal to you. And I know this is called universe the game. The universe is always playing a game with us. It's going like, Jesus, look how attached you are to money. I'm going to take that all away to show you that you're much more than that your vibration's actually bigger than that. Because our vibration is bigger than anything that's outside of us, whether it's money, whether it's a partner, a relationship, whether it's like a job or a promotion or whatever it is, whatever we're attached to, we're bigger than all of that. And the universe plays this game with us and says, okay, I'm going to make you as unattached as possible so that you can find true freedom. That's what true freedom is in unattachment. And I felt that on a whole new cellular level when I went to a Vipassana retreat a couple of years ago. I was 7 days in silence and I was sitting there and I was like, my God, the key to everything is actually unattachment, is to have no attachments, because the attachments are what causes the suffering. If we have pain, we only have pain for an instant. Our brain has it for an instant. But the emotion and the attachment allows us to keep the pain, holds on to it. And that's what keeps us in suffering. That's what keeps us in these suffering loops. And we're stuck in a place then where we can't let go, because the brain is and our body is constantly like, oh, I need to hold on to this belief, otherwise I'm not going to survive, or for whatever reason it is. And that's what I find so fascinating, like with the universe and with God, or whatever you want to call it yourself. But that's what's fascinating to me.
And there it is, folks. That's good, man. I feel like that's the stuff. So going from there, when you're saying, as I've said this also before too, 95% is the subconscious and 5% conscious. If someone realizes they have an attachment, let's just stick with the money for now. They have an attachment where they are feeling fear about that, and they're realizing it with that 5%. How would you say it would be a good way for someone to get into that 95% subconscious and to change that?
I think the first thing is sitting with yourself. Is sit with yourself and actually start to explore through self-inquiry. So actually meditation is not for everybody, but there are hundreds and thousands. There's so many different ways to meditate. You can meditate just by standing up and taking a breath and just going why do I feel scared about money right now? Or actually just say to yourself, I feel fear about money. See, a lot of the times we actually don't get over the emotion that we're holding on to is because we're so scared of actually letting it out. We don't want to say that I have a fear around money, because somebody might hear us. Somebody might think differently about us. So we don't allow ourselves to say it out fully, and we don't be honest about it. And then we don't truly believe that we can get out of it. And we're all constantly trying to hide what's actually happening. So a lot of the time is actually to tell the truth. Somebody says, and I learned this in Ireland. This is so funny. In Ireland, if you say to anybody, how are you? They'll always say, I'm grand. Doesn't matter what mood they're in. Can be they could be about to be homeless, or they could after winning the lotto, and you will still say, I'm grand. So the thing is that, okay, but let's go deeper. What do you actually feel? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel like you're there's a lot of stuff piled on top of you? Do you feel ecstatic, joyful? We don't even express our joy when we feel really amazing. And our mother will call us, we're after winning the lotto, and then your mother call you and go, oh, how are you doing? You'll say, oh, I'm grand. Even though you're after having such an amazing, profound blessing that's happened in your life, you'll still say, oh, everything's fine. But it's actually to tell the truth and speak the truth for ourselves, because a lot of the times we think that we're speaking the truth for other people, but we're actually doing it to liberate ourselves. And a lot of the time, to say, I feel scared or I feel sad is nothing to do with the other person. It's all to do with us as an individual. But it's so funny, isn't it, that we always attract people that reflect back to us what we're avoiding most. We'll always attract the relationship that's that's trying to bring our shadows into the light. We'll attract the money situations that will allow us to see that it's not actually about money. You're much greater than that. And this will constantly happen over and over again. And I see that as such a game, and it constantly goes on and plays within me as well, that I'm constantly seeing how attached I am to something, and then how it can just be let go, and then how it materializes into something that's even greater than you can have ever imagined. You know, that you might think a situation's bad, or like something happened to me that like I can't do anything about it. But when you embrace that and allow yourself to go into that emotion that's from that situation that's trying to be reflected back to you, you can see that there's so much more happening underneath all of it. And I think a lot of the time that when we hide away from the truth and hide away from those emotions that are coming up for us, we're not able to truly see all the blessings and all the wisdom that's actually it's trying to show us. And that's what is really interesting. I love like seeing life like that.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been an interesting exploration, this topic in my life, because I do coaching as well. And with me, it's always such an interesting thing to understand the dichotomy between the subconscious mind patterns that need to be felt and when you're just basically sabotaging yourself by believing those. And so for me, it's almost as like, what do you think the balance is between you have your subconscious mind that's just telling you things, and how do you know the difference between the feeling and just thought patterns that come up?
Well, I feel like this is something that I went into as well. And there was a time in my life when I was addicted to healing. I was just constantly like there's more to find out, there's more to find out. And like I only found out a lot of these things by studying the extremes. So like I've gone to the place where I've done like so much healing that it's been so overwhelming. And then I've gone to the place where I've done nothing at all and it's all piled up. So the thing is that what I see that's happening in the subconscious is that there can be 100 stories attached to the same feeling. And I was speaking to somebody about this yesterday, that he always finds a way to complain about something. Like is always complaining about something, and something that happens outside, like whether it's people or whether it's a situation, whatever it is. But that same complaint and the complaint that keeps materializing is actually describing the same feeling that happened to him as a child when he had a lot of siblings and he didn't get the love from his mother that he really wanted. And he blamed the outside world for that. You know, he would blame his brothers and sisters for it or whatever it is. But deep down, there's a feeling there of I'm not loved. I'm not wanted here. Okay. And then same story just materializes in lots of different ways. So when you're saying that there's how do you know the difference between a subconscious feeling and the stream of thoughts that come in? They're actually the same thing, but it's just to marry them together and to know what's trying to happen. Because and you probably feel this as well, Nick, as you're expanding, there's always something that tries to sabotage you then. You know, there's something that would be like, oh, life is going so great. And then you have a voice that comes in that goes, but what if it's taken all away, Nick? What if I take away all those TikTok?
Right.
What if I take your podcast? What if I take away all those followers? And that's actually that voice can seem like, I don't want to listen to that voice. That voice is not true. But that's also a part of you. So that part of you also needs to be listened to in terms of, okay, but I know you're not true, but I want to understand where this comes from because I don't need this voice anymore, you know? So I want to understand where it's going to come.
I feel like that's so key right there.
Yes.
Because you're doing the one thing that I feel like a lot of people get tripped up on. It's you understand that it's not true while you're feeling it. Because I feel like if you're just getting into it and you're just, I got to feel these feelings, but then you're believing the feeling, it's like, then you might have it keep coming back up because you believe it, and then it's just going to spiral you down. So just a distinction there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is that you think that belief is trying to get you. You think that belief is actually bigger than you. But what's so funny is that belief is actually inside of you. You're creating that belief. So it's so funny that we like compartmentalize ourselves. So we say like, I'm going to follow this part of me that's all abundant and like has all of this money and all of these followers and all of this. I'm going to follow that. But then there's also this part of you, which is also you, that needs to be embraced as well. Because self-sabotage only happens when we avoid it. Self-sabotage doesn't happen when we embrace it and say, okay, I know that you're a part of me. I know you're not all of me. And that I think that's what happens a lot with people who go through pain, like even anxiety, depression, and anger and all this stuff. is that we believe that that is us, that this anxiety is us, or this depression is us, but it's only a part of you, and it's only a temporary thing. But the thing is that our belief in it, that it is us, allows it to maintain, because the universe will just go, this guy's not getting it. So we're going to keep like throwing situations at him that will cause more anxiety and more depression, all this stuff. But it's actually to realize that you're so much more than that pain. That pain is only a part of you. And with self-sabotage, it's the same thing. You know, it's a part of you that feels like it's going to be left behind, that feels that it's going to be abandoned. Maybe it's a 3-year-old child or a 4-year-old child that's seeing you expanding so much past what he believed, and he just wants to be held for a second to say, you know, it's okay. You know, it's okay to let go now, and like, I'm okay to expand now. And then you feel supported and not kind of held back, because there are different ways to expand. There's a way to expand where you can like jump up and fly, and you're expanding, and you're like, my God, this is amazing. Or you can like expand in the way where you're flying, but there's somebody holding a chain to your ankle, and you're like, can't fully go into it. And they're the two ways that I see it happening. And I feel like true expansion is allowing yourself to go up, but also acknowledging the part that's trying to hold you back, and then saying it's okay for you to let go now, so you can expand even further.
There it is. Yeah, it's like there's I like to think of it kind of as there's this child, or like this dog even, that's like I've got 3 dogs here behind me right now, and I'm house sitting for my brother right now. And so it's like there's this constant like they're doing things that, if you have dogs, you understand. Like they're like, you go outside and they're just pulling you constantly. Or if you somebody like does one thing outside, like, and then it's like, woo, woo, it's just like constant, dude. And not saying it's bad, but what I'm the metaphor here for me is that there's situations that are going to come up that aren't optimal. And to me, it's like, how can we start to optimize our lives in the way where I want to, yes, if I can, do things to where I feel like it's the way I want to go, but how can I also, like, for example, if I'm on a walk with one of these dogs, Ricky, here. If I'm on a if I'm on a his name's Maverick, not Ricky. But
Totally.
if I'm on a walk with one of these dogs and they're pulling me, how can I, yes, do my best to teach them how to not pull, or to listen to them if they're pulling, if there's something, but at the same time, set boundaries and not allow it to disturb my own inner peace or my own sense of happiness at the same time. How do
Yes.
you feel like you balance not getting sucked into it? Because I feel like for a while, for me, and I know plenty of other people that get too sucked into it, that's the first thing that happens, is like, eventually people will realize, yeah, okay, this isn't that, I don't have to get annoyed every time the dog's pulling, or the analogy would be every time that my mind says that I'm not enough, I don't have enough of this, I'm not good enough for this. How do you feel like you can start to distance your own awareness so that you can still maintain a sense of happiness or contentment, or at least move in the direction, whatever direction that might be? Maybe it's entrepreneurship, maybe that's um, achieving these goals, because a lot of times that's what people have going on.
Yeah. I think that what you have with the dogs is what I have with children. It's like pulling me left, right, center, you know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is actually, and I live by this quote a lot. The problem is not what's happening, it's our expectations of what's happening. That's what we're breaking a lot of the time. So the thing is that we have a plan of how things should go. You know, like we wake up in the morning and we go, I'm going to be super in flow today. I'm going to do guided meditations. I'm going to do like yoga. I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to have a shower, and I'm going to do all this stuff. You know, and we have a plan of what's going to happen. But then like my freaking 4-month-old baby needs to go to sleep. I was like, okay, all right, I'll put him to sleep and I'll do all that. Okay. Then after that, my daughter needs to go to school. I was like, okay, all right, I'll bring her to school and I'll do all this. And we constantly have a plan of the way things might be, and things that have to happen for us will be. But the way that I've seen it a lot, and this is what kids have taught me so much, is to embrace what's actually happening while also maintaining self-respect. So in saying that, like, doesn't mean you have to give all of yourself away, but like be able to maintain your energy as well. But in terms of the dogs, like if you have the dog that wants to go over there, like wants to go over to this tree, okay? And once like, and then you can set the boundary, I don't want to go over that tree, so I'm going to hold the dog back, okay? But then the dog keeps going after the tree. That is the moment actually to be called to surrender, is to say, okay, maybe I just surrender to this right now. Where is this dog trying to lead me? And the dog goes over to the tree, and you end up meeting this. There's another dog at the tree, and it's being held by the CEO of this huge company that you've always wanted to work for, or the CEO of this like marketing agency who's going to bring your business to the next level and all this. And you start talking to this person. So then you see that actually the dog is actually the universe in disguise that's going over to this tree. And I saw a beautiful like example of this when I was living in Valencia, Spain, and we were living in an apartment, and my daughter saw this guy outside of one of the neighboring apartments, and he was like fixing the light bulb, and we were like, oh, come on inside, Luna, like let's have dinner. And she just wouldn't come in. We were like, what is this? And she was talking to this guy, and then she stayed there, and then we started talking to the guy. And we were like, okay, we'll surrender and see what this guy wants. And he said, you guys live in this apartment? And we're like, yeah. And he said to us, that apartment has really bad feng shui. The feng shui is really bad in there. Like apparently there was water lines running all along the roofs, and they could collapse at any moment. We didn't know any of this, you know? And we followed the dog, which was Luna in this case. And we actually moved out like 2 days later. And we moved, and we were like, we had all the fears and everything. Where are we going to live? We have like kids, and we don't know what we're going to do. And we found like an even better apartment like 2 days later. And 2 days after that, that's when lockdown happened. So
wow,
if we hadn't have like embraced that moment where she had went over to that man, we wouldn't have moved out of that apartment. Like it could have collapsed over our heads through the whole lockdown. We wouldn't have been able to find another apartment. All these like things that could have happened. But it's actually like surrendering to those moments and listening, like tuning in to listen. And I think that a lot of what's happening today is that we're so disconnected from our bodies. We're so disconnected from what our intuition is trying to tell us, what it's trying to show us. You know, because we'll have a feeling in our stomach and we'll go, oh, I'm hungry, and we constantly try and like fill that part of ourselves, which is actually just anxious or worried about something. And
when we're so much 100%,
yeah, it's so interesting. And when we're able to actually tune in and listen to what the signal is actually telling us, then we're led exactly where we need to go. But what's so funny is that we're going to be led there anyway. It's just how painful is it going to be? Like the universe is going to bring you there anyway. It's just what is the route that you're going to take to get there, and how much resistance are you going to have to that path? And that's what's so interesting. Like for me, when you see that happen, you know, it's like whether I get it now or I get it in a year, it's going to happen. You know, it's like, it's inevitable. And like, that's why I see the universe as a game. Like, that's why I see it as like so beautiful, the way that you describe it as well, is that like, it's kind of like playing with us, like a video game, to see like which way we're going to go. Oh, look, he's going this way, but he's still going to end up over here. It's really interesting. So that's what I see as really cool.
Yeah, it's like there's a boss that you have to, like, let's say you're playing like Elden Ring or Elder Scrolls. It's kind of like that sometimes with life, but it's a metaphorical instead of a physical, like it is in the game. Like in many games, for those that don't play games, there's bosses that you have to beat in order to progress. Like you can't skip them.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, or if you don't want to think about it in a super simplistic way, it could be like you're playing Super Mario and you have to beat level 2 to get to level 3. It's that, it could be that simple. And for me, I've noticed so much in my life that when I'm getting into these emotions, and when that's something you really hit a spot for me, because in the past, I think it was ever since I did the Exit the Matrix challenge, and in like January, February, and I think that it hit me how big like I was getting, like very quickly, and I didn't realize that and within the next couple months, I went back into an old pattern, and I wasn't even consciously aware of it. Where growing up, my parents were divorced, and I played video games. That isn't the thing that I went back to actually. I did two things. I played video games a lot to kind of escape the reality. But what I'm talking about here is that I ate a lot of food. Ate a lot of
Mm,
food. And for me, that was like I I went from I was 315 pounds, and as 6'3", 6'4", and so coming out of high school, that's how much I weighed, and then I lost it all. And then after the
wow.
Exit Matrix Challenge, I think I had a lot of anxiety and fear come up of like, well, I made it. How am I going to sustain this? How am I going to keep growing? And how am I going to keep doing this? And then I went back to that pattern, and I uh, I realized it here in this last month, and I gained a little bit of weight, and now I'm dropping that back down. And
Mm,
so for me, it's so apparent looking back that I was eating because I was not wanting to feel the feelings of what if, the feelings of fear, or the feelings of like like you were saying, there's always the sabotage that comes up even when you do things that are great.
yeah.
It just comes back. So that actually brings me up to a question for you. Like when you had that apartment thing happen, what was the process for you once you were like, okay, where am I going to live? How did you get from like that fear spot of like, oh, what am I going to do, to the place where you elevated into a higher state of being?
Yeah. That's amazing. I love like your vulnerability there. That's so great because it's like we fall into these patterns so easily. And for me, like with the house thing, it's so funny. It happened a few months ago as well. Like in terms because our house had mold from because there was a volcanic eruption on this island and we had to move house again and we moved into another better house and I went through the same situation. I think that the biggest thing that like helps me through tough times is knowing that it's only temporary. I know that this is only temporary. I know this is only lasting for a little bit. Okay. And I know that there's a lot of fears coming up. And I know that they're coming up for a reason. So, what are those fears trying to tell me? Are they trying to tell me, oh, you're going to be homeless, Fergus, and you're not going to have anywhere to live, and you're not even going to be able to afford a new place with new rent and all of this stuff? And I just go, okay, I wouldn't have lost this house if I wasn't meant for something greater. You know, I'm always taken care of. So this wouldn't have happened to me like just randomly because everything happens for a reason. And I think that the evidence that we pull, that we see that life is happening for us, helps us through those tough times. We know that they're only temporary. And it's so funny that it's hilarious that we need to go through these situations over and over again to realize, I'm taken care of. Because we fall out of it. We go like, oh, maybe I won't be taken care of. And then you go into a situation where you're taken care of and like, okay, right, I'm taken care of. We constantly need to relearn the same lessons, like sometimes. Like, and you gave a beautiful example with like going back to eating and going back to video games, is that was just allowing you to heal a deeper layer of that part of you that felt scared or abandoned when your parents were divorced. That's the thing that it was bringing up in you. And that allowed you to expand even more. So it's perfectly okay to go like into these unconscious patterns, but also realizing that this is only temporary. I know that this is only a temporary thing. And I know that because the thing is that going into those temporary patterns for a little period actually allowed you to see that they're not you. Because what's really interesting is that the situation keeps seem to be getting worse and worse and worse until we actually get it. We're like, okay. Well, what happens for a lot of people is that they wait until crisis before a change happens. And like I knew this from a guy that I knew. Every few years he gets in a car crash. So interesting. Around like the same date, like every few years. And it's like he's avoiding the same issue that keeps coming up around that same time, and he gets in a car crash. And then he realizes, okay, right, I'm really lucky to be alive. I'm really grateful to be here. And he feels this euphoria of like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here. And I think a lot of people go into crisis before they make a change. And sometimes that can bring them into really destructive patterns. They can like, okay, I'm going to keep going until I lose everything. And then I will realize like what I had. But you've got everything right now in this present moment. Everything is here. and we can stop the pattern at any time because we're the ones who created the pattern. We're the ones who created it, and we're the ones who can heal it. So it's actually realizing, and that's why sometimes we need that outside perspective to show us that, you're like driving down a hill here and you're going to go off the cliff. And then they go, oh, really? Jesus, I didn't even know that. We need that person to like pull us out of the car to go, okay, this car is going to go like over the cliff. And that's why other people are so important in this time. And this is like a time in our society where we're actually the most disconnected, which is crazy. We're going through the most things, and yet we're disconnecting the most from people when it's people who we need the most to heal and bring ourselves together. And like, this comes with like a lot of the attitude of I'm a lone wolf and I'm going to figure it all out my own. But the thing is that you need other people to shine the light on you, to show you the mirror of what's actually happening. And I think that's so important for people who are like even going on a healing path or wanting to like understand themselves, is that it's actually through other people that they will show you what's happening. Like it's either in a book that will show you the mirror, or it's in like another person or a healer or like a coach or whatever it is that will show you what's happening before you go off the cliff. And is the one that can pull you out and just go like, hey, dude, like stop accelerating. It's like
Exactly.
Take a step back.
100%. That's why I started doing coaching, and I know you do coaching too. And I highly recommend Fergus. I've known Fergus actually for a while because I did one of his men's circles, and it was incredible back when. I'm not sure if you're still doing those, but that when I went to that was incredible, and I realized the power of just having other people to talk to. And literally, if you just have someone that's in a decent state of consciousness, like someone that's not going to judge you. I'm not saying they have to be an incredibly high one, but when you have someone who is open, right, and you have someone who's there for you and just literally wants to help you, it can be such a game-changing thing. Someone did it for me, and I'm like, this is mind-blowing. Because you think it's like, okay, I can do this myself, but it's like, there's so much to the nuance of having somebody there that a lot of times our society does condition us to think we're not, almost, there's this stigma, at least this is what I think. There's this stigma of thinking, well, if you don't do it alone, or if you aren't able to do it alone, then you're weak, especially for men too.
Yes.
It's like we can't support each other because we're not worth as much, or it wasn't real, or it wasn't good enough if it wasn't alone. And that's so counterintuitive to what I believe many ancient civilizations and civilizations past were very community based. I feel like humans are meant to be community based. So in an ideal scenario, you have someone that's not necessarily trying to say this is the way in terms of Western medicine, and it's more of like an openness and more of like a connection, more of like it's kind of sad that we have to say that it's alternative. Like for my coaching, I say that it's an alternative approach to coaching and therapy, but it's kind of sad because it's like, that's what true therapy is, just feeling your feelings. It's like not like prescriptions. It's getting into the roots of consciousness. I feel like it's so simple and it's so natural to do,
Yeah. It's so funny that we need to come up with we need to say it in a different way, like when it's really so simple, an alternative approach to healing, and it's really just like, just feeling your feelings. That's it. But you can't say that. It's like no one will get it. Like you have to use fancy words in it. Otherwise, like people won't see the value in it. That's the thing. I feel like what's beautiful about this generation is that people are seeing that there is an alternative to Western medicine. There is an alternative to going to the doctor for your emotional problems, and like going to the doctor because when you want to understand like who you're going to, you look at the solutions that they provide. Like a lot of the times when you go to a doctor, your solutions will be drugs or surgery, or like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. 3 things. And I think that a lot of people are starting to see that maybe going to a doctor for my emotional issues isn't actually what I need. Maybe I need to go to somebody else who understands emotions. And it's so funny because we go to a like personal trainer if we want to get fit. Like that's like that's basically the description. Like go to a personal trainer, join a gym. Like very simple. But with medicine, it's made so complicated, and like it's made complicated for a reason. Because there's a greater agenda at work. But I feel like a lot more people are opening up to the possibility that actually, like, talking to somebody and getting to the root of my feelings, and like understanding that maybe this feeling that I'm feeling right now didn't actually start with me. And maybe there's something deeper here to understand. And maybe I can let go of this in a more natural way, in a more like holistic way, rather than having to go to somebody every week for friggin' 5 years to talk about the same thing every week. Maybe I can do it in a new way where I can start to get to the feeling root of it, rather than the story that I have this week about the same feeling that I've been talking about for the past 5 years. And I think that's where the real healing happens, is at the feeling level, not at the story level. Because like we can come up with stories for anything. There's like millions of stories out there. But I think that when we tune into like what is the actual truth of the feeling, because when you actually get down to it to understand it, you'll see that there's only like one sentence that's like linked to the feeling. Like when I get down to it, even with clients or whatever it is, when I'm talking to them, like they're feeling the emotion in their heart, whatever it is, like really it gets down to, I feel hurt for my father, or I feel sadness about my mother. I feel like, and I feel sad about what happened in her life, and how she never got the opportunities that she wanted, and all that. And that's just been passed down to me. And there's a beautiful openness that happens in those moments, isn't there? There's like such a, like an awakening kind of, and like it's so funny when people are always talking about, I had my spiritual awakening this week. It's like, oh jeez, did you? Yeah, we have the opportunity to have spiritual awakenings like momentarily. Like every moment is like is an opportunity to awaken, because like a spiritual awakening is literally like bringing you into the present, like more to see, wow, I am so infinite and vast compared to the small story that was trying to keep me down. And I think that that's such a profound realization for a lot of people, is that you awaken multiple times. Like it's not just you look back at 2007, you go, I had my awakening in 2007, but you're not the same person you were in 2007. You're like way different. So you must have had like hundreds of awakenings after 2007. But it's like, that is the opportunity that we all have to like go into ourselves, to understand ourselves deeper, and also to like to see how far we've come. Because a lot of times we're focused on like, where am I going? Like I'm going here. But when we bring ourselves to this moment, I have everything that I have in this moment. I have everything I need in this moment, and more, please, because I know that more is coming, but I'm perfectly okay where I am right now. That is the real like beauty. Because like I can even see your journey, Nick, is like so beautiful. Like, because I've been following you for such a long time, and even when we spoke in that men's circle, is that like you've been expanding so much, and it's like, that's amazing. Like I'm so proud of myself for that. I'm so proud of myself. Like, look at the things that I was worried about like friggin' 5 months ago was getting like friggin' like 500 views or 1,000 views on my videos, and now I've got like 20.
Literally, dude, last night I posted a video about there's this new sinkhole in China that ended up getting, it was 630 feet underground, and there was like a forest underground. And I was talking about underground civilizations, and that video got like 500,000 views in the first like 8 hours. And I remember there being a time where I was like, oh man, I hope my video gets over 1,000 views. And now it's just like, it's wild. I'm not saying all my videos do that well, because I have like I have plenty of videos that just freaking, yeah, TikTok. I've talked about this before. I talked about this in the podcast I did with Carehart. That TikTok is like this. It's a one platform where you can have a video that gets 500,000 views and the next one gets 2,000. It's so wild, and I feel like it undercover helps people to not stay so attached to that. And anyone who's creating online, I feel like, has went through that phase where they've got to really start to think about what's fulfilling when it comes to posting content, because it's just human nature to want like this survival based, I need more, and at one point or another there has to be, okay, I can't base my happiness on this. You can. Let's not say that you can't, because there's plenty of people out there that are just like, I want more, and then they get more, and they're like, oh, I'm so happy because I have this. But I feel like the deeper level is not necessarily trying, but starting to find happiness in yourself. And if you wanted to, even, I think it's even another step, which is the level of consciousness of willingness, if you're talking about the Dr. Hawkins scale, where you start to be at a space of contentment and fulfillment because of the effort you're putting in,
Yes.
because that's just a transition. You know, it's not always like you go from ground one or two, floor one or two, where you're like in maybe it's even pride in the levels of consciousness where you're like, I'm proud of what I did, and because I'm right, because I have this now, because I'm, and it's the beginning of self-worth. And then you start to get up there into higher levels and you're like, I'm proud because I'm putting in the effort because of who I'm choosing to be. And then you get to the ultimate level, which is like, I'm content and fulfilled just in my state of being. I don't even need to put in effort because I have enough. I am enough. And
I am.
so there's like this stair. That's why he calls it the stairway to enlightenment, because it's like there's this progression that sometimes we make. We don't have to do it in the stairs. We don't have to go from bottom, well, up each level at a time. We can make jumps, but I feel like that's analogous. And then, so my question is have you ever read the book Letting Go by Dr. Hawkins?
Yes, I have. I was an audiobook.
Yeah.
That's why. Great.
Nice. Okay, so you know, because I'm like, what you're saying right now, I read that book a while ago, and I'm like, what you're saying right now is so in line with what he was saying, because I remember it being about that it's really about feeling the sensation of the feeling in the body. And when you
Mhm.
feel the sensation in the body, what happens is it leaves your body because there's not resistance to feeling it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, you know, need to hold on to it. And it's funny because like you can, and it's, you can think about this on a spiritual level, in the levels of consciousness, in like a neurological level, whatever it is, it's the same thing. And it's so funny that we're all actually describing the same thing that's happening, because the brain does this in a like in the same beautiful way. Like, you know, that your being no longer needs to hold on to this sensation. It's the same as your brain no longer needs to hold on to this pain, so it can just let it go. And it's the same way. And I think that like there's so many texts and so many different ways, even like going back to ancient texts and ancient civilizations, like in Carl Jung, and all of this is actually saying the same thing, which is so beautiful, just using different language to describe the same phenomenon that's happening. And like, I feel like the true intuition and how we know about it all is actually within ourselves. We're drawn to it. So that inherent wisdom is within us, and it's being brought to, like, our awareness is being brought to that. So when you're talking about the sinkhole in China, that's actually within you. That consciousness is actually within you. And then you just happen to come across an article which was describing it. But that wisdom is already within you. That just, and then you're like, I'm going to bring it to the wilder world to bring that to other people's consciousness. And then your followers are following you and seeing that, and then being brought to that consciousness as well. But that consciousness is within them as well. So that's actually, they're being attracted to that. And that's why I feel like sharing information and sharing content and sharing all these different things is such a beautiful way to show up in service. Like sharing content is such a beautiful way to show up in service, as well as like doing one work with people, doing retreats, and like I want to do retreats like very soon and all this stuff. But you're actually always showing up in service. By you showing up in service to yourself, you're actually showing up in service of the whole world as well. You know, by you just happening to stumble across that article, you're automatically showing up in service, because you get to download that and make a video on this. But you don't do it for the case of like, oh, I'm gonna get 500,000 views on this video. You do it for the pure love of it, and like for the pure satisfaction and the joy of creating. And then you get that on top of that. And the thing, it's so funny, isn't it, that when we get that 500,000 views, you go, my next video has to get 500,000 as well. But you only get 2,000, and you judge it. It's like, this video is not as good as this video because, but that's actually coming from the self-worth that's outside of us, that's telling us this is good and this is not good. When really you had the same joy and love of creating that you did for the 500,000 video and the 2,000 one. And the fact that they got 500,000 and 2,000 actually makes no difference. But what is it saying about you? What does it bring up within you? And I've gone through this as well, because I put out videos of 10,000 and then I've got 1,000. What does it say about me? And it's actually that, am I able to accept myself in all the ways? You know, can I fully accept myself? Can I fully be okay with myself? That something outside of me worked here, but now hasn't worked. You know, and then that's what the game is like trying to bring our awareness to all the time, is trying to say, yeah, okay, yeah, you accept yourself when you have 500,000 views. How about if you get 2,000 views? Do you accept yourself then? How much do you love yourself? You know, it's like, it's so funny.
Come on,
like,
man. You're calling me out here.
no, but this is like, but this is just, this is just an example. This is like with everything. Like, this is like, you like sign a client for freaking $10,000, and then you sign another client for $1,000. And then you say, I'm going to show up for the $10,000 one way more than the 1,000 one. But that's actually a trick, because it's actually to show up in the same way and the same service and the same love that you do for all of it. Whatever happens in the external doesn't actually matter. It's just to show up in the same way. And I feel like when we do that, that's where you find like true enlightenment, when you have full acceptance and you're detached from the outside world. That doesn't actually matter what's going on out there or what rewards I'm getting or not, because that's actually the value system of a child. You know, oh, if I clean up my toys, then I'll get chocolate. If I be nice to my brother, then I'll watch a movie. You know, this is all the reward punishment thing that we're brought up on, but that's actually not true as well. And when we're able to forgive that inner child and see that part of ourselves fully, and not even that, like see the ancestor that's like putting all that stuff on us, and like understand that and grow an appreciation for it, we can see a whole new worldview, a whole new perspective, that actually everything that is coming is actually created from me. I'm creating everything, and everything outside of me is just creating a signal to how I feel about myself inside, which is like so fascinating. So, and when we truly detach from that, it doesn't actually matter how many views we get or how much money we're making, or like how many girls you get, or like how many kids you have, or whatever it is. It doesn't become a more. It just goes, thank you. I'm so grateful for what I have right now. I'm so grateful for what I am right now. And I know that I'm growing. I know that I'm learning all the time, and I embrace it all, and I surrender to what it's trying to show me. You know, and like this is something I've been doing today, is practicing allowing life to come to me. It's actually to make no decisions. Just go like, I'm just going to sit back and allow, like, see what life is going to just do for me, rather than me having to do anything. Because usually I'd like make videos. I'm just not going to do anything. And then I stumbled across all these old clips that I have in my phone, and I'm bringing them together right now. And like, I didn't have to make any food today. Food was like brought to me for some like mad reason. Like, all of these things, this is just a practice that I'm doing today. And this is something that's being brought to my growth, like, and something that came to my awareness this morning of something that I need to work on. So it's actually just listening to the signals and realizing that everything outside of me is actually within me. And then to follow that, and then you'll be brought to the space of enlightenment and true acceptance and love for yourself in a whole new way.
Yeah. I always have those moments. Every podcast, there's a moment where I'm just like, I gotta let that one sink in for a second. So, all right, now, what's the meaning of life?
Wow. Now we're going to that after that. That's great.
I think we pretty much nailed every aspect of healing. I feel like it's pretty pretty comprehensive there. So I always just kind of randomly throw that in.
Love it. I feel like it's actually to embrace all that's happening. I feel it's like to listen to everything that's coming, and to embrace it, and to say that, what is this trying to teach me? Where is this trying to bring me to? You know, what is happening here? You know, how is this trying to bring a deeper level of understanding of myself here? Because like, I feel like the meaning of life is just to deepen our understanding. Like, and we're constantly on a self-discovery journey. And whether you think you are or you aren't, you are. You know, you just can't help it. You know, and even if you're the person who sits on the couch all day and watches TV, you're still on a self-discovery journey. Because it's going to be a point where you're going to be invited to get up off the couch, you know, and learn something. Now, no, it doesn't matter how low, like, and you say in the consciousness scale, no matter how low you are in the consciousness scale, you're constantly going to be brought to a level of understanding within yourself. You know, and some people find it through an illness. Some people find it through like a disaster that happens in their lives. But then some people find it through like following their passion, following their purpose. But no two are like better than one another. It's just the life path that we're on. Because I've like been in contact with people who've had like cancer for years, and they've like finally broken out of it. And then they realize, that's why I went through that. It was actually to understand this part of me. and I know that I'm not going to do any of the behaviors now like that created that cancer in the past, I can move forward with a new perspective. And I think that's constantly a learning journey and a growing journey. And as you say, like, and as we said earlier, is to constantly learn and embrace without being attached. And that's kind of the thing that I'm studying and that I'm like understanding at the moment, is like, yeah, I'm like embracing everything, but I'm trying to not be attached to everything, you know, is to know that everything is impermanent and everything is temporary, and to like embrace that. I feel like that's the meaning of my life personally, and I feel that happens for a lot of people that I've seen as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, that gets her done. That gets her done. So as we contemplate that, one thing that I found through my life is that is 100% the case for a majority, 100%. So as we really dive into that, I know a lot of people are in the society that we live in the world that we live in right now. There is not a supportive environment for people that are just like, I just want to be, I just want to not do anything. For a lot of, especially here in the West, because I'm in the U.S. So it's like you have to. It seems like you have to, let's say, support yourself in a lot of different ways because it's not free to just live. So, how do you feel like you balance w- getting your life to a position where externally you're good in a world that's not supportive of you pursuing even creative passions? Like, for example, I detailed cars for a long time on the side while I
Yeah.
was doing content. And it was hard to do that at the same time. But I did it. But what do you
Yeah.
think the key is to someone who is like, oh, I have to work this job that I don't want to work? How do I navigate being unattached, but also knowing that this is what I'm getting at right here? I don't necessarily want to do this, but it feels like I'm forced to do this for now. So how do I let go of that attachment of like this job is annoying, the situation, maybe I'm living with people I don't want to live with, in
Yeah.
order to get to that place externally? Because for me, in my experience, getting to a place externally that I prefer has been a massive part of my life as well.
Mm. I think that with that, and I've gone through that as well. Like, I've gone through the point where I've done healing, like, and then I've worked a computing job because my like college degree is in computing, you know, and I would like go to my job and I would work the 8 hours, and I'd be thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Like, this is such a waste of my time. And then I would go home and I would work on my website and I would work with the clients and everything like that. And I was like, like, it was 100 miles an hour, until the point where, like, I was at the point where I was like, okay, like, I'm ready to like fully jump now, because there's a lot of people who are like who are wanting to do their own business, who are wanting to go into this work, who are wanting to like get healing, whatever it is, but they don't allow themselves to, you know, they don't like. And I think that that's fine. It's fine to have a grace period. Like, I would never tell anybody like who's like, yeah, I want to do like coaching full time, you know, and I just want to do it. I have this job, and you know, like, I'm not going to say to them people like, yeah, just like quit the job and off you go. Like, there you go. It's not like that, you know.
Yeah.
I think that people find their feet at their own time. So I think, like what I was saying earlier, is that know that the job that you're doing is only temporary. You know, you're not going to do it for the rest of your life. It's serving you to this point because you're making money from it to be able to pursue that passion fully, until the point where that passion becomes your full-time income, until that passion becomes like what you're supposed to do. Because I went through like so many scary things, because when I left my job in Ireland, like computing job, and I went to do healing full time. I'm going to do healing full time. A week after that, I met my partner at the moment. Okay, and she already had a child, and I'm out. I went to Thailand, and I'm going to do healing full time. I'm going to make money doing this. But then it wasn't just me that I was making money for anymore. It was like that. Now I'm going to be making money for myself, and also to support the love of my life and her child. And now I have another child. So I was at the point where I was like, holy, holy hell, like I gotta do all this. And that brought up so many things for me, but I knew that that was a path that I had to embrace at that time. And I got so many divine things happen where like money would just magically come into my account, and like I would get tax back from my jobs like a few years before that, like 2,000 in my account. I'm like, oh great, look at that, that's great. And like I've had so many of those moments. And that's just literally through trusting, but that time when I said to myself, I'm ready to leave this job and I'm ready to go off fully, that was something that I made, like that I did. I wasn't so attached to that, but the only thing that came into my field was something that was like healing related all the time. Was a person would contact me, oh, I need healing, or like somebody would contact me about a website or all this stuff. And I would be like, okay, this must be my path, because I keep getting signals towards that all the time. And the thing that happened with the thing that you're saying with your job and doing doing the coaching on the side, is that like you left at the complete perfect time, because that was the time to leave. You worked at the point where now you're like full-time doing this, and that's fine. And I feel like a lot of people and there's obviously some struggles that you go through when you fully go into a business. And if you speak to any business owner, they go through this, like where like they'll get like success, and then it will go down, then it'll go up, and then it'll go down, and it'll happen like that. But that's actually the learning. And it's the learning actually we're deconditioning ourselves from the part of us that's saying, I need a job every week to give me the stable income that I need to survive. But that's saying that money is greater than you. That is the stability that it's outside of you, but it's actually within you. You're the one creating it actually, and you can create it for yourself. So it's maintaining the vision while also listening to the signals. Like you knew that you wanted to do content and coaching, like that was your thing. You're like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do a podcast as well. You had that.
Dude, I've been trying to make content since I started a YouTube channel like 2016,
Wow.
doing fitness videos. And many people don't even know that. I did that for a while. And then I live streamed video games for a while, because I went back to, I'm like, okay, I'm not good at very much, but I'm good at video games. So I was good at FPSs. And so I started doing that back up. And then I was like, okay, this is not fulfilling. Like I actually want to share, I want to share something that I feel like will impact people in a profound way. And yes, I was going through my own stuff, and I was reading books like, I was reading You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the Law of One came into my awareness, and then I started to get into Wayne Dyer's work, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, and then I started to be like, wow, I'm actually starting to not suffer. And the thing that's causing me to suffer is like this old kind of thing that I'm doing because I feel like I can't do this yet, because I feel like for me, what I've seen is I've coached so many people on different things. Sometimes I do coaching like I did before with the levels of consciousness and stuff like that. Like that's what I do mainly right now. But I also did and still do on the side is helping people learn how to make content. And something that I get into a lot with, I'm like, this is what I've used, this is what helps me. And a lot of people do succeed, but one of the things that people always struggle with at first is feeling like I need to know a certain amount, I need to have a certain amount of credentials in order to help people, in order to make content. And there's always that barrier of realizing that, oh, I can just share my opinions. I can just share what helped me. Like,
Yeah.
I can just be this normal, not normal in the sense of like the societal normal, but I can be this. I don't have to have qualifications of certain places or anybody's. I don't even have to have a qualification of people telling me that I know enough, or I can just literally pick up a book or pick up or listen to something and be like, this is interesting. This helped me, and share it. And I think that's something that can translate to life in general, that you can just start being you. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing, because some people won't even realize that they are not, as we talked about before, you're not the things that a lot of times your mind might say, which is going back to, I'm not the, I had to realize before I lost all the weight, that I'm not this. I can transcend this. And there was a buffer of time where that happened, but I feel like that can happen in so many different areas of life.
Yeah, and it's a constant journey of like understanding that part of ourselves. That's the thing. And I think that like when you're talking about content, it's really interesting because like the way that I started doing content, I just like practiced. I practiced all the time. I went on like we're doing writing posts for ages, and I went doing like IGTV videos for ages with like subtitles and all this stuff. And then like I went back to like one of my like previous experiences. Like I always wanted to be a video editor. It was like one of the things that I really wanted to do in the past. You know, I want to be a video editor. I want to be the best in Hollywood. That's what I want to do. I started following all these vloggers like Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat and all these people. Then I saw that like, oh, reels are becoming a big thing on Instagram, which are kind of like mini vlogs in a way, you know, or kind of like such short form content. And I always loved like quick cuts and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, this is actually marrying the two things that I love most together. Talking about healing work and bringing together like what I've done, you know, and I think that like practice is the thing. Start like, they always say like, how do I write a book? Start writing. How do you start like how do you like write a song? Start writing. Like how do you like create content? Start recording. Like I want, like if you're the person who wants to make videos online and inspire millions of people, start making videos like right now, and you'll find the path yourself. That's the thing. And like here's the thing, you're going to make loads of mistakes, loads. That's the thing. But those mistakes help you find out where you are and who you are. You can't look at somebody on Instagram and say, I want to be like him. No, I want to be him, because it's impossible for you to be him. You can only be yourself. You can only be the best at being yourself. So like practice doing videos like this guy, yes, but then that will lead you to something else that you like more. Then practice doing that, and then practice doing that, and it'll lead you on this spider web of going to all these different things. And I think that's what people like really need to embrace first, you know, is that like, oh, I really need to heal myself. I really need to start like working on myself and opening up my heart. Start doing it, you know, like
Like
even
right
do
now.
5 meditation every single day. Sit with yourself for 5 minutes every single day. Can you do that? Once you do that, extend it to 10 minutes. Once you do that, you'll start to see parts of yourself that you can't heal in yourself. So like things that your awareness won't bring you to, and it's blocked for some reason. So then somebody will come into your field as like, hey, do you want to heal from your anxiety? Like we'll do a video on that. You'll go, oh God, I want to work with that guy. He has the key of what I need. And you go on that. So it's never the right time to start, and you'll never have enough like experience to like, okay, I'm ready to go now. You just start now. That's it. Like this is the generation, and this is why social media is so beautiful, is that you can literally start doing stuff now, and you can reach a super wide audience at this moment, you know, like just by creating content, like and speaking what your truth is, speaking what's coming into your field. All the videos that I make are things that happen to me, are things that like come into my awareness, and I make a video on it. Like even I made a video about like somebody going on their individual path, and then somebody saying like, oh, where are you going on your individual path? Like where are you going? You go, I don't know. And you don't know. Like that's actually something that I experienced when I was going on my individual path in Ireland. So when people like see that and go, wow, that's me as well, it's showing that actually what's most personal is universal. And that's probably what you're seeing, Nick, like so much of your content, and what so many people see as well. The more personal you are with what you're experiencing and what you're seeing, and the things that interest you the most, the more you see how much it has universal appeal. And that's kind of like the law of one, in a way, that we are all one and we're all connected in that way. That when we're the most ourselves, that's when we're the most connected with ourselves and with everybody else, because we're in our authenticity. We're in our like unique self. We're in our divine self. That's what connects us to everything.
That's right. That's right. It's so
Law of
true.
one, that's it.
That's so true. It's such a beautiful thing to realize that we go through this journey, and when people say it's not a journey, you're like, okay, you can look at it however you want. To me, it's like we're born here, we don't have any memory, and then we're like, all right, let's play the game. Okay, what's the game about? The game's about, at first, making money, making that gold, making that sweet gold, and then having more things. And a lot of society is still there. And then you start to realize, well, that doesn't actually, this is so cliche, but it's so true sometimes, that those things don't inherently bring me happiness. They might allow me to have, they might allow me to tell myself I can be happy now because I have these things. But it's so interesting how you look around the world, and there's a lot of people that don't have a lot, but yet they're just so at peace. And then the question becomes, this is the essence of, I feel like, something that is really big, the law of attraction stuff, when it comes to not necessarily just a law of attraction, but co-creating your reality. How much does you have being in a higher state affect your ability to allow things to come to you? So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like this like brings me, because I've been humbled in many ways in this way, like because I've traveled the world, and like especially like I went to this place in a Thailand in the Myanmar border, which is a place called the Karen tribe. And these people have absolutely like would have nothing, you know, in terms of like they build their houses out of mud, and they like don't have any money. And I was talking to one guy, and his dream was to have like a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey. Like that was his thing. You know, I just want to have a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey with number 7 on it, like from Real Madrid. That's what I want. And he was like so wanting it, you know, but he was so perfectly happy as he was. And he was like, I was in that tribe, and they were saying, like, he was saying to me, you guys, like, you can stay here tonight, like you can stay in my house. Like I built this house myself, so proud of it. It's like I built this with my bare hands, and we have like set you up here on the floor and everything. And I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, this guy has nothing, but he is like giving everything. You know, he's like just doing whatever he can. I've heard like so many stories like this. Well, and I've truly experienced like that. These people are so happy in themselves. They don't need anything outside of themselves. So really, if you look at the Hawkins scale, they're like way up there. It's like, and they look at you like you're the divinity of love. They look at you like, I want to give everything to you. And I think that like, whether they know it consciously or unconsciously, there's like a secret that they have, in that like they're so grateful in what they have and in what they are, and so present to the moment, that like they see everything. Like they can see how impermanent everything is, how things just, because like they're in, like a lot of them, you would say they're in poverty, but when you speak to those people, they're like enlightened. How they're speaking.
What kind of poverty, right? Is it physical poverty? They're not in spiritual poverty, you know?
No, not spiritual poverty at all. That's the thing. But it's so funny that we judge people based on like, oh, they're poor, and like can't talk to those people. But they actually might be at a higher spiritual awareness, that like, and you can learn so much from them people. I learned so much from that trip, like which is evidenced by the fact that I'm even being brought back to it now. That like that is the place to go, actually, is to be as present and be as like grounded and be as humbled as possible, while also showing up so much in your heart and so much in service to like everything that's around you, and embracing it all as it is right now. And like I was around those people, I just like emptied out my wallet. I was just like, here, you can have all of this, because I saw how like ridiculous it was. I was just like, I have all this money here you go, like buy your Cristiano Ronaldo jersey. That makes you happy. That's amazing, you know. And you see how like worthless these, you look at the money you have, it's like, and you go like, this is so like worthless. What is it? Here you go. Like they're like, and I feel like that is like the ultimate like freedom. Like we're actually all chasing to be free. That's like, a lot of us are looking to be free. That's actually what we're searching for, is to be free from our bondage and free from all this stuff. Like if like people are so stressed in their job, it's just like, okay, you're really stressed in this job, but if I took that job away, how would you feel? Like there, all the stress is gone. Oh no, but I don't have any money now. Okay, so it's money. That's the thing. Okay, what is it? Like, and we live our lives through this traditional narrative that like, and this is how I was brought up as well, that like, what is the goal of life? Like, what am I supposed to do? Well, you go to school. But why do I go to school, Daddy? Oh, I got to go to secondary school. Okay, but then you go to high school. Okay, there you go. Well, why do I go to high school? So you can go to college. Okay, all right, I'm going to college now. Okay, but why do I go to college? To get a job. All right, why do I need a job? To make money. It's like, how are you going to survive? And it's like, okay, I'll make money. But why am I making money? To be happy. But it's like, why don't I just go straight to the happiness? Why don't I just go straight there? You know, what is it that's like, why can't I just access that now? Because we're sold the narrative that we need something outside of us to make us happy, when actually it's already there. And it's the biggest lie that we're told. It's the biggest thing that we're all trying to bridge, is this feeling that you're enough right now. Everything is fine right now. You have everything you need in this moment. you know, everything you need, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That always gives me so much peace. When I say to myself, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, even if everything is like crumbling around me, allow it to crumble. Like, what would happen if it falls apart? Because if that's the biggest fear, then maybe that's where you need to go to like truly understand and truly allow it to happen, so that you can get an awareness of it sooner until it like causes more damage. You go, okay, yeah, the house is falling down, right? So what happens if the house falls down? I have a house, but there's millions of houses in the world, you know? Okay, I've lost my job. All right, I'm going to allow myself to lose the job, but there's millions of other jobs. Oh, I'm out of this relationship. I'm not going to get another relationship when there's millions of other women in the world. There's millions of other men in the world, you know? And that's the thing, that like our attachment creates a limited thinking. It creates a limitation on us that we think we are this, but we're so much more than all of this. Like before we went, like I call myself Fergus the Healer on like Instagram, but that's like, I'm so much more than that, you know? Like Fergus the Healer. Yeah, there we go. But also like I did video editing in the past. I do this. I've got children. I'm a father. I go to the beach. I go to the water. I like do all these things. I watch Liverpool play at the weekends, like in football, all of this. But like we're so much more than those labels. Like people like will look at your content, Nick, and go like, there's Nick. He's probably like reading Journey of Souls like and Law of One like 24/7. That guy does nothing else. No, but I have dogs and I walk my dogs as well. Okay, so you're a dog walker.
Two things, man. There's two things I do.
Two things, yeah. And that's the thing. We're like limiting ourselves in these boxes, but like we're so much more than all of that. And when we actually look at it, we're all actually the same. And we connect with people on so many different layers and so many different things. You know, like I'm Irish, you know, but like I connect with Irish people, but like I connect with people all across the globe, like Egyptian people, like friggin' Mexican people, like everything. But and like because I'm Irish, that doesn't limit me to anything. We're all connected in this thing, and when we look beyond the labels, we see how great we actually are. We're greater than all of those. And when we're speaking to any person, they start to reflect that within themselves too. They say, "Oh my God, I'm so much more than that as well. I'm not just this one thing." And that's the lie. Tradition tells us that we're on this traditional path and everybody follows the same path, but yet we're all so different.
I've got like this big realization with that just came up to me.
Yes.
It's like there's a win-win scenario if you realize this, because the win-win that we're talking about here is that once you finally come to the conclusion that I can feel happiness, peace, contentment, wholeness, love without the thing, there's no really losing in that scenario, besides you would technically be losing the perception that you weren't happy, or the fear and the stuff in your mind. It's almost like your mind tries to trick you into thinking that because I'm unhappy with my situation, then it will change. And it's like, but you could also be okay with your situation. You could still be in a state of love and peace, and you could still change that situation. It's like your mind tries to say, well, let me bamboozle you by thinking, if I'm annoyed with my job, somehow that's going to improve my life in some way. When really you could just say, okay, I'm surrendered to the job for now, and I'm going to find another one will come to me, and I'm looking and I'm taking the steps. It's like, I'm about taking the steps, but then also realizing that there's only a certain amount of stuff that I can control. This goes back to Stoicism. You know, there's so much that's out of your control. That's a huge theme in Stoicism. And so if I'm understanding that I can't control a lot of time what happens, the only thing I can control is how I respond to life, then you start to live from a place of, well, I can really manage my response so that I'm in a state of what one could call equanimity, where I'm not attracted nor averted to what happens to me. And it's like the ultimate state of humans, really, is what we're talking about here. I'm not saying everyone's going to get there, because they're not probably in this lifetime. Yes, they will eventually. I believe that all beings will eventually reach enlightenment, because we have an infinite amount of time, you know. In an infinite universe. Well, you know, here's the thing though, that could actually be untrue, because if you have an infinite amount of universes and an infinite amount of potentials, then the infinite potentials would lead you to also have the potential that someone would never evolve because there's an infinite amount of time. So there's still that potential. So I guess I can't say that, but I like to believe that most people will probably figure it out eventually. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's the silver lining aspect. Everyone's going to be enlightened at some point. That's the thing. But it's so funny. Like, even you see in today's society, there's more and more people who are becoming conscious, but yet there's more and more people who are becoming so unconscious. That's kind of like the polarity that's being like stretched out. And that same polarity that's like happening outside of us is actually happening within us as well. You know, and you can see this with every time you expand. I'm expanding my business. That means it's bringing up more self-sabotage patterns. It's trying to bring me back. And this stretching and evolving of our consciousness that happens in the light and the shadow, that like we're experiencing way more higher levels of love and joy and peace and all of this stuff. And like, this is evidence. This is so like evidenced by like having a child, having a newborn. It's so funny because like, when my child will smile at me, it's like, oh my God, the bliss and the joy and the love I feel in my body is like, whoa. But then he needs to go to sleep. And it's like he's going through pain or reflux and all this stuff. That's like the opposite end of the spectrum. But no two are like bad or good. It's just like an embracing of that. And that's stretching me as a being. That thing that like this child that's happening outside of me is stretching my being within myself. And this is what's happening in every situation that we're seeing. And whether we're focused on like the war that's happening right now, or that like Elon Musk bought Twitter, or whatever it is, like all these things are stretching our consciousness. Like these things are bringing up so many fears for us, or whatever it is, like, or your team wins the game or your team loses the game. That brings up so many different things for us. And it's about embracing like, what is this trying to show me? Because everything outside is showing us what's happening within. So like when you're saying about everybody will reach enlightenment at some point, like there's infinite amount of possibilities, infinite amount of universes. It's like so beautiful to see, because you'll have the perspective that I feel like everybody's going to be in enlightenment. And then there's also the perspective that somebody else you'll talk to who will be at the deep shadow work and all this will be like, no, the human race is going to self-destruct. This is the like, but it's like, it doesn't matter which is true. It's like, what does it bring up for you? What does it show in your body? What do you feel about that? What happens within with that? And if you have this divine truth that's coming through that everyone's going to eventually reach enlightenment, and that makes you feel amazing, keep following that. It's okay. That's the thing. Follow that, and that brings you to the place where like you will start to inspire people to feel that way that you're feeling as well. Because you're actually, through the stories that you're telling, the stories that I'm telling, we're trying to inspire people to feel things. We're trying to to make them feel inspired, or to make them feel like
100%.
a real. That's the thing we're trying to inspire in people. So like the story doesn't matter in a lot of ways. And you could, like, I've seen this with my content so much that the best content I've ever created has been created in like 5 minutes. Like, has been like, there, it's out, boom.
Dude.
And I get like, it's like,
Yeah.
wow. Why is that? Because actually ease and flow is the way to like, to that's when you're the most present. You're not attached to it. You're just like, hey, I'm going to make this because I want to make it. Boom, there it goes, bang. The best songs that were ever created were written in like 5 minutes. I've read so many stories about that. And that is like pure presence. That is like when you're tapped into something divinely, and like there's no distractions on the outside, because this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Like, boom, you're in there. And I see that like when I'm creating content, or like I'm creating videos, whatever it is, I'm not interrupted. And I have a rule now, if like it takes longer than 10 minutes, I just let go of the whole thing. It's like, oh, this is not the thing to create right now. I let go of it all. And that's like, that allows me to be the most present. Because like, if I'm creating something, or I want to do something and it's constantly being interrupted, maybe that's not the thing for me to do right now. Maybe I need to listen to something else, or maybe it's trying to bring me to something deeper. And then like I'll learn something throughout that day that I'll create a video about that, and that will be made in 5 minutes, and then I'll put that out. That's like, I feel like there's a divine creativity that we can all tap into, and it's in the purest form, and we're the only thing standing in the way. These ideas and these downloads are constantly coming into us, and we're constantly clearing out space to make room for them to enter our bodies. And when you're ready for it, it will arrive.
Yeah, and I'm doing my best to balance these two, because I've always been interested in elevating humans to reach a state where they suffer less. That's been a big goal of my content. And
Mm.
I did that for a while on Instagram, and I did IGTVs like you were saying myself. And then I started to see, well, this isn't really going anywhere because I'm just not strategizing well enough. Like I needed to use TikTok. And I knew that, but there was like this fear of, oh, it's for kids. That's what everybody thought at the beginning. And so I
Yeah.
waited much longer than looking back. Like looking back, I would have done it in a snap of a second because it's such a powerful platform to reaching more people.
Yes.
But ironically, the first platform that I ever used was YouTube. YouTube was like the one that I wanted to do full time from the beginning. So shout out to YouTube here. It's like my favorite platform by itself. But
Yes.
that's because I like doing things like this. I like long form kind of cinematic type things. But then I also learned how the game was being played. Like you talked about, Reels started getting popular and TikTok started getting popular. So sometimes like a huge delayed gratification thing for me is what I'm doing right now, and most people wouldn't even realize it. It's not that I don't like doing TikTok and Instagram. I like making the videos, but would I prefer to make only long form content? Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a preference I have because I like it. I like getting on the camera and talking. I love, like, if I could do this podcast full time, that's my goal, man. My goal is for those that are watching and those that are watching this in many years from now, go back to this clip and realize that I have been working towards this for many years, even before this. That
Yeah.
like I want to travel around and podcast with people around the world and not just creators. I'm talking about I want to go to Buddhist temples and podcast with some Buddhists and get in there. And I want to go to Hindu temples and podcast with them too. Like this is something that I not only in the US, like I want to travel around in a truck and a RV. And you know, anybody who gets my coaching or gets the courses or my book, which should be out by the time that this podcast comes out, because it'll be out like next week. So for anyone that gets that, that's going directly to like the next thing, which is for the original. This is kind of cool to think about. The original thing that I wanted to do, I got this idea was I'd love to travel around, and I was live streaming video games, and I was like, I'd love to. I was, just streaming in the house at that point, and I was like, I'd love to travel the U.S. and live stream with having the nature in the background. That'd be cool. And that's how I got good at talking on camera, like the way that I am now, because I live streamed every day for many, many hours. So, so now it's interesting to see how the vision changed because I realized that that was kind of leading me towards doing the podcast on the road. And I'm leaving actually in 2 weeks from today. I'm going to start living nomadically again. So
Yeah.
it's been such a process because I just want people to realize that sometimes things don't happen right away. Like I wanted to live nomadically and I did live nomadically for 9 months in a rooftop tent, and then I ran out of money. And then I had to go live with my parents again because I had to humble myself and say, we got to figure this out. We got to figure out how to elevate it. And then I gave it my all and I gave it everything I had. And then I figured it out. And it took many, many lessons. It wasn't like it was just it can happen right away, and it does for some people. But for me, it was like this delayed gratification and this like, oh, do I really have to go live with my parents again after I moved out in high school and never moved back in? I guess I have to. And it was just my dad, by the way. And so I live with my dad for even when you're watching this. Like that's how vulnerable I want to be in this moment to help you to realize that the struggle sometimes is the thing that leads you to your greatest joy because of the society we live in. Taking risks a lot of the times come with consequences that are like the thing a lot of times, especially if you're living the life that I'm living or the things that you've chosen as well to start to live differently, to pursue things you actually enjoy. A lot of times those things are risky. But it's also risky to not do it because then you're going to be unhappy for so long because you never pursued it. So it's like you were saying, man, the roller coaster is real for sure in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a lot. Like that's beautiful. Like, what's the alternative? That's the thing. There's no
Yeah.
other. There was no alternative. That's the path that you follow. Like it's beautiful that what you say about your parents, because my parents have just came to the island and they've just left. They were here for a week. That was so much integration and like healing for me on a whole new level, because I've never had my parents come to my environment. I've always gone to their environment. They came to like my home to meet my family and this. And that was so much integration for me. I realized the power of like everything that I had done up to that point, like how close I was with my parents, you know, in terms of like how much I appreciated them, how much I seen them. But 5 years ago, I would have wanted nothing to do with my parents. I would have just been like, I'm doing ancestral work right now, and I want to separate from my parents. You know, I don't want anything to do with them. But actually, I've seen that all the work that I've done has actually brought me closer and improved my relationship with them. You've probably seen that yourself, that the Ram Dass always says this beautiful quote. It's like, if you ever think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your parents. You know, that's
oh yeah, yep. That's definitely true in my life.
Yeah, people never even realize that like after Ram Dass became enlightened with Maharaji in India and all this stuff, his mother collected him at the airport and he forgot everything in like a couple of hours. He like had lost that whole consciousness, and he had to go through a whole different pattern to like let go of all his inner child stuff and then relearn all that stuff that he had learned again. You know, and that's such a beautiful thing. I think that if you want a checkpoint for how your life is doing, go spend a week with your parents. You'll see how you're doing. You know, and I think that that's a beautiful like signal that we have, and a beautiful like environment. But I think that like I know in my life now, I don't need to go to my parents like and live with them for a week to like understand like where I am or where I'm at. You know, I think that like the reason why it's so difficult to go home to your parents is because you're in their world. You know, that's their house, that's their kitchen, that's their fridge, all of the stuff, and it brings up all these things from the past. And I think that that's like beautiful. And like I had to go through that myself, because when I left on my healing journey, I went all across the world. I was like at Colombia, like driving around in the car, living nomadically like yourself. And then I had the same thing. I ran out of money and I went to live with my parents again. And I lived in Ireland, and I learned so much about Ireland, and I learned so much about how the land was holding so much trauma within myself, and how I had to heal so much trauma within myself. I wouldn't have found ancestral healing if I hadn't gone there, because I was at such a point where I was like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed with my parents and I don't know how to heal this. And I went to the first, like, to my, like the fellow who taught me ancestral healing. And he goes, "Now you need to let go of all that now." And I go, "Okay, let's do it." And I started to get into family constellations and all that. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have found that path. I wouldn't be talking to you here on the podcast right now. So like everything is leading us to these places that we're going. Like even when you're saying about like Instagram and TikTok are like leading you here, you know, you're getting so much joy and like gratitude doing that. And then also getting so much gratitude doing that. And it's so funny, isn't it? How this goes back to the job thing as well. That like you have a job that you don't like, but you're doing it so that you can fuel something that you do like, so that you can do that thing that you like full time. So the job is actually, I'm grateful for that job. You know, I look back at all the jobs I've had, I'm super grateful for it. I wouldn't have been able to do all this. You know, the last job that I had, I used all the money from that job to go to retreats all around the world. Now I host retreats. You know, wow. So that job served that purpose. And that's the thing. Like I'm just hosting a retreat now in a few months, and if I had that job served that purpose for that time, that's the thing. And then when I felt like it's not time anymore to do this, then I was brought to somewhere else. And that is like what life is just showing us all the time. It's just about like embracing every step. Because like, as you said, Nick, like if you had gone straight to like, I'm just going to do podcasts full time, that's it. No, don't talk to me about social media. Don't talk to me about that stuff. Then you would have gotten to the point where you're at right now, where you have like your microphone and you've got like beautiful setup and all this stuff. You wouldn't be there. So like, it's just like being grateful for every part of the journey, and then seeing how they're all informing each part. Because like the podcast might, and like doing YouTube might be the highest right now, but then that's going to lead somewhere else. You know, and Mr. Beast is one of my favorite like creators. Like I always see he invests everything that he makes from the previous video into the next video, you know, and then but then his YouTube channel became something bigger than just like getting followers and likes and everything. It became like a philanthropy where he was providing food for people, and like becomes much bigger than you know, and I think that that's what we're being led to in a lot of the ways. Like, and this is why I always say the quote, like, it's better than you can ever imagine, because we think that this is the highest, but then it's going to lead somewhere higher even. So like, just that expansion and going into the shadow shows us and kind of like accelerates the time that we can get to that expansion, which is so beautiful that we have that tool.
Yeah, Mr. Beast is definitely a one that I've studied as well. I mean, no shame here. My goal is to be the Mr. Beast of awakening of consciousness, to have that impact on society. And there's so I think I'm just getting vulnerable on this podcast, and I'm just going to keep getting vulnerable because I feel like it's needed here. First couple things here. In terms of, like, let's take away the stigma of living with your parents. Sometimes that's just what happens. Like, it's not any better or worse that you can or you can live on your own. You're better. It's like, do what you want. I mean, I know there's plenty of people who still live with their parents that do it by choice because they like living with their parents. So, I mean, I'm grateful that I had that, because if I didn't have that and I ran out of money, because when I left where I was living, because I was living with my other parent, and it was getting very toxic, and it was like, oh, I can't be here anymore. So it was like, what do we do? And we tried to get an RV at that point, but we didn't have 2 years of this is me and my partner Jesse. We didn't have 2 years of back taxes that you need in order to get a motorhome. We had the credit, but we didn't have the income because she'd already quit her job to come live with me. But if she had not quit her job, this is so wild to think about. If she had not quit her job before she came to Michigan, she could have gotten a motorhome, and I would be probably in a motorhome right now, already traveling. But we didn't know that was what we were going to do, because she thought, hey, we're just going to come live here for a little bit. And so it just ended up being like, that's what the cards were. And sometimes in life, you've got to just take what you're given and make the best of it and work your way, not only working as in doing, but emotionally and spiritually evolving through this process. And I have so much in the last year. And the goal for me is to eventually get to the point, because I've always known I was going to have a big impact. And I'm actually growing really quickly right now on the other two platforms. So I'm sure YouTube, now that I'm doing this, like, a lot. Like, I filmed 4 podcasts this week. Like, that's what, like, I'm putting in it and I'm doing it. And so I'm sure this will take off eventually too. And the goal is to have the biggest spiritual consciousness type podcast out there. And I feel like as soon as the resources come, I'm investing, and that's all I've done. Like, the resources from the Exit Matrix Challenge, boom, new lens. Look at what the mic I had before the challenge. It was not this mic. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm investing in the better quality things, because I know that that's the strategy to continue to progress and make things better and provide more value and help others. And, eventually we'll get to the point where I have a whole team, I'm sure. And I want to do documentaries and things like this. Like, I have a lot that's eventually going to be happening, but it's important. And I think this conversation is so grounded, because we're like, it's okay that it's not here yet. That's the key. I'm not suffering because it's not here yet. I'm just doing all that I can and letting that be enough. I mean, I'm posting daily on TikTok and Instagram. That's enough for now. And I'm doing these podcasts. That's enough for now. I just made the book, and that'll be out next week. That's been a process. That's enough. Like, I don't need more. That's been a big lesson for me. Is like, I'm not, this is, right here. I'm not where I want to be because I'm not doing enough. I think that is so a huge lesson for me. It's not that I need to be doing more. It's actually just, maybe it's my emotional state that I'm in this place where I need to do more. Why do I feel like I need to do more? Why do I feel like I can't be taken care of by what people call the universe or the unified field or whatever you want to call it? Am I allowing this greater force, let's say, to take care of me as well? Or am I trying to just be like, I'm the only one that takes care of me? Maybe there's something, this is just a possibility that I always like to say. It's possible that there might be a greater force that we don't understand that is taking care of things on such a complex level that maybe if we surrender to that force while still putting in the action steps, maybe things will happen in a way that will blow even our own minds. Like it has blown mine. Like I'm to this point now. So, that was a
Yeah.
long-winded thing.
No,
So
absolutely. I feel that. Like I feel that really deep. That's the thing. Like, and we're all like, and that was kind of my thing as well. That like I felt I had to, like, you have to keep, like, you're doing all you can, and then you just got to let go for some reason. And I think that a lot of the time, the illusion is that we're the ones driving the car. We're actually not driving the car. We do the best when we're the ones in the back seat and we're allowing it to drive itself. We're allowing, like, as you say, the greater power to drive it. And the thing is that what's deeper is that, like, you're just being called to do that. Like, you're being called to post every day, and that's why you're doing it. Why are you doing that? Because that's what I'm being told to do right now. That's what I'm being called to do. That's what I want to do. What I want and what I'm being called to do, it's kind of like the same thing. And it kind of, like, wouldn't be worth it unless people were questioning it. Like, why are you doing that? You go, like, yeah, because I'm being called to do it, and that's why. Like, I know that I had a lot of resistance even from my father coming here, like, for the past few days, like, saying, like, yeah, but why are you doing that? You could be doing a job as well, like, you've got kids and all this. Just like, no, but I'm not being called to do that. I'm only being called to do this. Like, I've got a podcast tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do, and like, I've got client sessions later on today. That's what I'm being called to do. I'm being called to make this video right now. That's all happening in the present moment. That's all being told. I'm not doing it because I need to get somewhere, because it's going to lead somewhere. It's just literally what I want to do. Like, I want to be the best healer in the world. I want to be the best that's ever been. Like, period. Like, I want to, like, awaken people in a way that they've never been before. I want to bring as many people together as possible and change the way that people see community. Like, I want to do all that, but also I want to raise my children and to be an amazing father and to be the best father I can be. And I want to be the happiest that I can be, and also, like, be happy with my partner, have the best relationship possible as well. I want to do all of that, but also it's okay right now where I am. I might not be there right now, but if I maintain the vision of it and I do everything that I'm being called to do in the present moment, I will inevitably go there. Or I'll either go better than there, that, like, it'll be even greater than that, and that's, like, the beautiful vision that we can hold while also being as present as possible with what is happening right now. And I think that that's, like, a beautiful journey and a beautiful way to look at life in that way. And I feel like what you were saying is, like, along the similar lines of that, like.
yep, you're maintaining the vision. Your
Yeah.
main that's a huge key in so many different teachings when it comes to transforming your external reality. From Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill to Neville Goddard to Dr. Joe Dispenza to Greg Braden. They're all about that.
Mm.
You just maintain the vision and you allow yourself to be in the elevated state before it happens. And then, you can get to the conversation about lower brainwave states and all that, but that's for a different day. I think that right there is such a good way to close it up here. I've got one more question for you.
Yep.
And this is the one I always ask at the end. So let's just say you are, this is for you, it'd probably be like, how do I want to word this? Let's say that you are, you've decided that you want to heal people by meditating only for the rest of your life. And that's just what you decided to do. And you're like, I want to heal the world through my own state of consciousness. Very hypothetical. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was one last message that you could give to humanity, and you'll never speak to anyone again in the online space. And you probably won't hear from anyone again. This is it. What do you feel like is the message that you would give people about really anything?
Wow. That's a beautiful question. I feel like I'm in the Himalayas. I'm like an Indian yogi right now. Expanding
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Right.
in the Himalayas. That's great. So, what I would say actually is slow down and listen, because the signals are all there. I think that's it.
Signals are all there. All right. That's all, folks, for today's
all-
episode of today's episode of Universe the Game. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us. It was such a pleasure.
Amazing, brother. That was so great. It was great fun. Love it. Keep it going.
Woo! All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Universe the Game with Fergus today, and I would highly recommend you check out my upcoming Awakening and Empowerment Challenge. We started on the 29th, 7 live streams in a row where we go into the nature of reality. We go into what I believe are the most practical steps in understanding this reality and transcending into higher levels of consciousness and being able to co-create or really create the micro reality in your life that you prefer. All right. Otherwise, we've got plenty of other podcasts if you'd like to binge watch. If you don't, that's okay. Otherwise, we will be back next week with another episode of Universe the Game Podcast. And until then, peace.